Hey, what's up, you guys? So today I found myself just randomly wondering about things, and despite having an almighty device in my hand that can give me the answers to most of my questions or concerns, I opted for not doing that, and instead, hey Garuda, I wrote down the questions that I came up with for whatever bizarre reason, and I said, you know what? I'm going to stream about them and give my own answers to my own questions before doing any research whatsoever. And just make a fool of myself and show you guys just how clueless I am about life and maybe have fun while we're at it because why the hell not? So the first question that came to mind is so ridiculous that I'm almost embarrassed to repeat it. But you guys know that phrase that is said when you tie the knot with someone, and well, for the sake of accuracy and clarity, let's limit it to hetero relationships, and that is when the guy is addressed and gets told, you may now kiss the bride. So, you guys know how there's this thing called virginity that some people really make a big deal about, me being one of them, and how in some religions it's absolutely important that you uh, protect that, that you honor that, and whatnot. Someone asked, what's the topic? Well, the topic is just questions that I thought about randomly today. And instead of me Googling answers to them, I created a stream so that I can give my initial answers to my own ridiculous questions and then see what comes out of this and make a fool of myself pretty much. But yeah, so in some religions it's important that, for instance, the girl remain virgin until you get married, this and that. And then the question that came to my mind is, when whomever asks you, you may now kiss the bride. Were you supposed to not kiss anyone until then, or are you being told that you may now kiss the bride because it is appropriate and necessary to complete the the process of marriage, or were you supposed to also put off that physical act until you tied the knot? And the reason I asked this, I know it's absolutely dumb, like I said, I'm embarrassed that I'm even repeating it, is because I genuinely don't know the answer to that. Why is that even something that is said? Or is it that you display affection to your wife now or something, and it's encouraged that you do that? Like, what is the meaning behind that phrase? Were you supposed to put that off, or is it just something that needs to be seen, but I don't know. I thought that I would ask myself that because it's something that I've never really sat down and questioned. And for some people, say, being virgin when getting married is important. For me personally, it's important. But at the same time, the more I think about it, I feel like with the way things are, it's possible that I'm not going to have it my way. Because what if I don't get married? But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I don't want to get the act going. See what I mean? So it's one of those things that I value, but at the same time, I stress over it in the department of I would love to experience it with a guy who also has not done the deed just for the sake of exploration. But yeah, why do you get told that you may now kiss the bride? Trust me, I don't think that anyone goes up to that altar or whatever and they're like, you know what, honey, I've been waiting all this time to kiss you, but I waited until today because it's when it's appropriate. Is it about appropriateness, or is it just for the sake of including that act during this ceremony? Let's see what you guys are saying. Wedding and kissing your wife during marriage right now. Okay, cool. Thanks. It would be the longest smooch ever on my wedding day. You actually wrote that as wedding day. Did you do that on purpose, or did you not notice your typo? Why do you think is important? Honestly, I don't know. When it comes to kissing, honestly, it's just a big display of affection. Like, I consider it important, but at the same time, when I'm questioned about it, I'm someone actually super shy. Like, when I'm in public, I can think of only two times when I have kissed someone on the lips in public. And honestly, it's an act that I just like to reserve to be in private because very easily that can escalate into like something that should be reserved for not being in public, like straight up making out, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I would be uncomfortable if I walked into a couple that's exchanging bacteria that passionately in public. See what I mean? It's not that I'm one of those people who ruins those acts. It's just that I don't feel like I need to see that. But again, I'm shy. But but I don't know. People are free to do what you want, but at the same time, I believe that there are behaviors in public that you should just display and also respect. And I think that PDA can only go so far. So if you're like straight up making out with someone, eh, I don't think we all need to be witnessing that in the same manner that unless you're at a beach setting, there is only so much clothing that you should be revealing depending on where you're at. Like when I'm at the grocery store or when I'm at a restaurant, I don't need to be seeing a lot of skin, you know? So, not to body shame anybody or skin shame anybody, but I think that you wearing clothes to certain lengths at your job, for example, is established for a good reason. And god damn it, I froze. But anyways, I see the timer still ticking. But but at least when it comes to intimacy, I think that's something that should be just like the word says, something that's intimate. Like displays of attention should be an intimate act. Let's see. I'm talking about sex before marriage part you mentioned earlier. Oh, when it comes to that, I think it's important because I do not want to present myself as a partner who has had a lot of experiences that led to nothing. Because, for instance, if I meet a guy and he has had a lot of partners, I'm uncomfortable with that because I want to know why you were not able to hang on to someone. And at the same time, when it comes to my private personal life, I don't like for there to be a big number of people, like men, who have been intimately involved with me. And I'm very reserved. I don't like to be divulging my personal business. And at the same time, when it comes to my body, I like for that to be something that I protect, something that's personal and intimate. So if I have more than, I don't know, to throw a random number, if I have more than three sexual partners, I feel a little bit uncomfortable by that because I like to keep that very, very, very personal. And ever since probably my preteen years, when I was discovering who I am, I always wanted to be a one man woman. And I know that that's very difficult to fulfill. It's very likely that that's not going to happen. But I really like to respect that act and I like to take it seriously. I don't like to treat it like a casual matter and just like that, be casual about it. I like to respect it. And I dedicated a whole stream to this. I forget what I called it, but shoot, what did I call it? I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing that pink and black top. What did I call it? Oh my god. Oh, something about how to get it going tonight. I think that's the title that I gave the stream. Tips on how to get it going tonight. Something like that is how I posted it. In case you're interested in hearing my thoughts a little deeper on this matter. But honestly, I'm just extremely reserved, and the idea of having so many partners who just know what it's like to be intimate with me, it just bothers me. I like to just. I also don't like the idea of knowing that my man has been through a lot of women. Like, no. Something about it. I just don't want to share my personal life so many times. And I also would love it if a guy also doesn't have a lot of experience. Experience is good. I mean, I'm not trying to crap on it. I'm just saying that when you have involved yourself with so many people, usually it's hard to completely let go of those things. And I just want to avoid disaster from happening. Like a lot of these people just don't know how to give you your space, or sometimes you yourself may have trouble getting over them. I don't want for the shadow of someone else to intrude in a relationship, because for me personally, some relationships that I've been through that left me really messed up, my next guy who arrived in my life, I kept bringing up my past. So the smaller your past, the more limited your past is, I believe the better off it will be when you're involved with someone like me. Because I seriously like to avoid stresses. So I feel like when you have had such a big history, some stuff just haunts you. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me personally, um, that's how I perceive it. That's how I've experienced it. So that's why I'm trying to put it off. And I would love to put it off until I meet the guy who like meets my criteria. But if it doesn't happen, then whatever. It's my loss. I'll have to get over it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, I'm talking about, okay. I should have been more clear. Yeah, don't worry. At least we got to it. Don't worry. Just don't open French kiss. That is a bit aggressive. Yeah, definitely. Is that because of social pressure, parental upbringing, or religion? Honestly, none of the above. But I guess I do like to say that I have my own spiritual stuff going on. So I guess you could call it religious reasons. But honestly, I was not raised with religious influences, so I cannot say, yeah, totally, it's religious influences. And when it comes to social pressure, honestly, the way I experience social pressure is I feel that everyone has had experiences intimately that I have yet to have. And honestly, that makes me a little bit jealous. But when I think about it, I tell myself, bitch, it's not because the opportunity hasn't been there for you. You have decided to not proceed. So why you mad? You know? But I feel like I am ready to take that step, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to regret it. So that's why I keep putting it off. I feel like I want to wait until everything about me is on the same page. Say, now I'm physically prepared because, of course, I'm older, more mature, etc. But I used to not be emotionally prepared. But now I feel like I am either there or getting there. I'm honestly not even sure. The reason I say that is because I have my moods. One day I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to conquer the world. I'm ready to like take my relationship to the next level. But other times I'm like, no, 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 no. No, mentally, I feel like I am prepared for it. But at the same time, it feels right to wait a little longer. But I do get my impulses when I want to get it done immediately, but I want to get it done for the right reasons, put it that way. Atheism is also a religion. True to that. Okay, so I guess that concludes my rambling on the "you may kiss the" phrase. And then, okay, this one is going to be one of the dumbest things that I say on this channel. But you guys, please bear with me because I feel like you're going to see what my point is. But I came up with the question of, is it even possible to wipe out an entire race? Does Is there such a thing as conserving genetics? And what I mean by that is, you guys know the law of conservation of mass, whatever it's called, that says that, energy, stuff, whatever, it cannot be created nor destroyed. Can genes be created, or nor destroyed. And what I mean by that is if a specific race has existed, can you completely get rid of it? Even if you limit it to make it very, very, very generic, particularly for this country. Let's say that white people only limit themselves to reproducing with white people, which, to this day, it's really, I guess it would be complicated to find yourself as being 100% white. But for the sake of simplicity, just bear with me and let's say white people go with white people, black people go with black people. Eventually, after many, 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 many generations, can you completely wipe out your heritage from ever appearing in future generations? It's like in my family, for example, because we are so freaking mixed, we have had people who look black who have green eyes. And this actually happens pretty often because in other families who have biracial couples and stuff, they end up having a black baby that for some reason has bluish eyes, you know? So clearly, the allele for blue eyes was carried by one or both parents. So, although they limited themselves to mating between what on the surface seemed to be the same race, what a trait that is commonly associated with white people, which would be blue eyes, showed up in this offspring. So, that's why I bring up this question. Is it truly possible to get rid of a certain generic genetic makeup? But at the same time, there are also these countries that are homogeneous, like they have mated with each other for so long that they haven't really introduced a separate type of genetic pattern into their DNA. See what I mean? So once you created biracialism, is it possible to wipe it out? And once you've created the Asian traits, let's say that you start mixing with, I don't know, black people. Now you have black Asian. So if you kept doing black Asian, black Asian, black Asian, at some point would absolute Asian traits be wiped out, or would it be a race of its own, or would it be fully black at some point? Which, of course, if you're black Asian, that means that it takes those two traits to make you, which means black Asian is a race of its own. But see what I mean? Wiping out some genetic traits, is that possible once it develops? Because we also gotta keep in mind the fact that these traits really appear based on what governs the other. Like they call it recessive genes and dominant genes, where the dominant ones take over the recessive ones. But on some cases, recessive genes appear despite parents displaying dominant traits for certain, uh, you know, phenotypes. So yeah, let me see what you guys are saying because I pretty much put my point out there. Please do not collapse. I'm gonna be sad cookie if the stream collapses. Um, have you ever looked into Rollo Thomas's work? I cannot say I have until today. Matter cannot be destroyed, yes, and it's surprisingly easy. It depends on how far you go into the gene pool, but yes, nice. I thought you meant weapons. Innate gene, black and dominant genes. Oh my goodness. Because you guys ever see how racial couple, usually Asian traits tend to just stick around? Yeah, interesting. I believe we are already genetic engineering, but sadly, I don't know much about what you're talking. What? Don't even about that. Not even I. And that's the reason why I entitled Zam being clueless. I truly do not know the answers to these questions. I'm not trying to do, but I like to just brain and see how far I can go and see what you guys have to say. And that way we all just learn, you know? But yeah, I thought that was interesting because I know that at some point in history and shit, maybe in the present, that's what some people may be trying. But anyways, what made you think of this? Honestly, I don't know. To be absolutely honest with you, the whole reason this channel exists is because I am replacing my journal. I used to write, but now I really voice stuff. I'm practicing on just speaking my thoughts as opposed to writing them now. So if I were not talking about this, I would be journaling about this. But I guess if I were to critically think about it, because the topic of race is all over our face, all online, we hear about it, we see it, we smell it even. Maybe that's in my subconscious, and maybe that's how it surfaced. Because honestly, you can give me a topic, and even if I'm not very savvy at it, I can come up with questions about it. I can think for myself. I can generate an opinion, even if it's not a very intelligent one. But at least I like to see what I can do with my own independent thinking and knowledge. And then if I'm interested enough, then I do my research and learn and become more educated. But until then, I just like to bring it up in here, dare to be different, present myself as someone who's ignorant, and then maybe get some direction from you guys. And that's how I have learned a lot on some matters that I otherwise would not have cared about or considered important enough to even give an opportunity to grow in that department. So, anytime you watch one of my streams or you listen to anything that I have to say, please bear that in mind. Because a lot of times, people in the comments of like older topics of mine, they don't get what I was doing because you meet me based off one video and you think that one video encompasses my opinion on whatever subject the video that you're watching went over. And I'm like, no, you need to understand that there's only so much that I can say in a 30-minute stream. Or sometimes thoughts come up after I have ended the recording that you otherwise won't hear about. So just remember that I'm just here, just talking, really. And I just want to be different. I don't want to sound factual all the time. I like to dream, I like to imagine, I like to be creative. And in the end, I do tell you what I truly believe and what I truly know, but I just like to be different. Why would I want to sound repetitive? I think repetition is boring. So yeah, you guys, that pretty much concludes my thoughts on that one. Let me see what you guys are saying. The only gene engineering they are doing killing races, those same people expect secret or trying to kill a race. I have A, B plus blood, so I see a ray. I am literally. You know what, Garuda? You just reminded me that I want to consult my clinic from the last time to find out my blood type because I've been curious about that. So I turn out to be related to you to let you know. But maybe I'll be something crazy like O or something O negative or some shit. I don't know blood types. That I think when I was taking biology, that's literally where my course ended. When we were getting ready to learn about blood types. Badass cookie. I'm in favor of genetic engineering insofar as using it to prevent hereditary diseases, but that is as far as I would want to go with it. Well, said, I guess I also must feel compelled to challenge that, I guess, by saying, how do you feel about it from a moral point of view? Or ethical point of view, I should say. Because, in a sense, in order to progress in science, you have to experiment on things or people or animals, and that's when ethics get in the way. Should we really be concerned about ethics, or in the name of science, should we just roll with it so that we can better progress as a species? But at the same time, if you interrupt the flow of nature, I feel like disasters can happen because, in a sense, are the way to bring balance to nature. So, is it absolutely good to find cures to diseases? Yeah, of course, I think so. Everyone deserves to live a full life free of pain and suffering and misery. But at the same time, is it really wise to try to temper what nature does naturally? See what I mean? Like, some people would not be alive today if it weren't for the progress of science. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in the grand scheme of things? And god damn it, I lost my list. Oh, flexi girl. Let's see. What do you guys think? Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. I had a feeling it was going to be the morality part. Of course, we have to mention the morality and ethics because someone is going to. So this time around, I'll be that person who brought it up. La da la da. If your blood is AB plus, then we have a distant ancestor. If not, then my blood sadly is limited to only a few blood types. If the subjects are willing, then to a but even then, I think there has to be a line. I don't agree. Humans will just look at the Zika virus. Oh yeah, the Zika virus, which yeah, that was quite epidemic. Science always calls us some type of plague, World War II, Nazi experiment. Oh my god, an incredible topic. But yes, I was more conditions you were born with viruses. Well, when I think about it, I think worth mentioning only because they, as a human being, just as birth defects and all other physical conditions, But yeah, aren't both worth it in their own way. Let's see, what other question? Oh yeah, do we have expectations of celebrities? And the answer to this question, I guess, has to be two things. One of those things is the social justice warriors who are always siding with celebrities who apparently come forward whenever they have been victims of something and then they start advocating and whatnot. That's cool, that's good. I'm not here to criticize that. I think anything that's going to make us better as humans and improve society, it should be promoted, supported, and whatnot. But are we depending on these people and their resources too much to actually help lift those who are not as privileged as these people? And then to give it another side, the other way that this question comes to play is during natural disasters. We just had this big hurricane, Florence, hit certain parts of the East Coast. And we already have seen celebrities who are donating dollars, like Michael Jordan, he gave $2 million. We can expect the Panthers guy to also donate something, and at some point, more celebrities are going to join in, I guess. But is it really their responsibility as individuals who have a lot of resources, you know, at their disposal to be solving the problems of those who are less fortunate? Of course, I think that you definitely should help out. It's a nice thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do, especially if you don't have those resources assigned to do something already. But are we relying too much on them? Are we depositing too much faith in them to where we feel like we are helpless without them, and like we as individuals who have limited resources just cannot accomplish anything on our own, you know um because it's okay to have expectations of celebrities. They are members of society, they should contribute. But I guess, do we have to have a limit on how much faith we put in them? Or should we try to treat them like they are the law of the land as well as members of the elite who have money? and then be like, no, we gotta treat you like you're part of the government. So therefore, do something. Donate more than $2 million, Michael Jordan, because you have what, close to a billion, or maybe you are a billionaire. I don't fucking know. But you guys see what I'm where I'm coming from. Let's see. Are you gonna be nice to me and not crash? Yeah, you're going to be nice to me and not crash. Carried till he was like, look at my Nike shoe and socialism. Now hate that guy. I got to go. It was nice talking to you on the subject. Have a good day, gorgeous. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Jim Carrey is too rich to get affected by socialism. And have a good day, Jesse. You know what? One of my teachers told me that no matter how much the pretends to be a capitalist society, more socialist. And I'm like, so I'm honestly not very savvy in this whole economics subject, but we gotta be kind of strange that only a very small group of people have more power than entire governments in some instances, you know? I think that is incredibly suspicious and it needs to be looked into and regulated in some way because a single individual should not have more wealth than, I don't know, entire companies. See what I mean? It's just strange to me. So, why do you need to have that much money? How much money is going to be enough for you? But maybe it's not about that. And if it's not about that, then why do you not redistribute that wealth that you're going to do nothing with? I don't know. I'm not rich, so I cannot think like a rich person, and let alone I am not envisioning that. So, again, I don't know. This is Zam being clueless. Read my title. We don't need to have the answers to these questions, but it just, I feel better when I just talk about it. Socialist money will just get taken by people who are corrupt. Makes sense. Oh yeah, today I remembered something from when I was a little girl, and that was formality. The way that you address certain peoples, and that is, to make myself clear, when I was in school, I had to address my teachers by their last names. Hey, Mrs. Smith. Hi, Mr. Harrison. Hi, Mr. Mrs. This and this and that. The Mr. and Mrs. and Doctor. I had a teacher who had a PhD, so therefore we called him Dr. So and so. Now, ever since I have been out in the real world and I have been a grown ass woman and I have been interacting with my managers and whatnot, I have never ever addressed any of my colleagues who are in authoritative, whatever positions. I have never called them Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so. Mrs. first name or Mrs. last name, I just called them by their first name, like John or Eddie or Sasha. You know, that type of deal. I don't say Mr. Eddie, Mrs. Sasha. Is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? And I remember that many, many, many months ago, I created a topic similar to this in which I was talking about the French president when he was calling out this one teenager who called him Manu or something. And then he was like, I'm the president, this and that. I have a title, I have a degree. You have to respect me because I am better than you, blah, blah, blah. I'm bigger than you, blah, blah, blah. So how important is that? For me, as an American who doesn't value that stuff, I guess I just do not give a shit. But at the same time, I am worried that if I go to another country that is actually formal, I'm going to have a hard time and I am a rude person and I am going to offend the people from there. And I never mean any offense or any harm. But I can see why titles are important to some extent, but at the same time, if it's just for you to bring prestige to yourself and because you need to be recognized for your hard work in school, I guess, I don't know. Do you have a low self esteem? to where you just need to be like applauded for that. Now, of course, again, I'm being silly in this topic, but for me, it wouldn't bother me if someone just calls me Miss Zam or Zam. Or I don't even care, that's not even my real name, but that's mostly how most people call me. And, whatever my last name might be. I don't care if you call me by my last name, but I would prefer that you don't, only because I don't like it. So I also think that formalities bring unnecessary tension to a conversation, in the sense that as a person in an authoritative position, you may look at me as someone who you can only say so much to. And I feel like that, again, it brings unnecessary tension. Whereas if I present myself as someone who is, what can I say? You can reach me. I'm not a star. I'm not out of reach. I'm just like you. I'm pretty average. I'm normal. I have needs and wants and desires and dreams just like you. Relatable. If you find me relatable, I feel like you're more likely to trust me, as opposed to if you see me consistently in a position of leadership to where all I'm doing is bossing you around, I can understand why you would not necessarily approach me so openly. So if I present myself as, I don't know, let me come up with a crazy last name, as Mrs. Van Zanten, then you're going to be like, this lady is, you know, she's already showing her position of power. I have to be submissive to her. This needs just like you. It's all right. See what I mean? So I'm gonna see what you guys are saying because I'm pretty at this point. But just note that ever since I've been working, I have never addressed anyone by their last name. And in fact, anytime if I met someone and I went with their last name, they would immediately urge me to call them by their first name or their preferred name. So let's see what you guys have to say on that one. La, 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 la. If I ever called my mom by her first name, the daylights out of me. Now, when it comes to parents, it's kind of different because I've never calling my mom by her first name or by her last name. In fact, when did I discover what my mom's real name was? You mean this whole name, your name was not mom? What? Like, I'll never forget that as a kid. When my mom taught me what her name is, I was like, but mom, why do I need to know that? I can just call you mom. And then she kindly explained to me, you may get lost. You may end up in the hospital. You may end up, anything can happen. You need to be able to identify your parents or say who your parent or guardian is. And I said, oh, that makes sense because I have my mom, but your mom is not my mom. You're going to call your mom mom. So, how do we know which mom we are talking about? So, she took her time to explain things to me. She displayed patience, and it made sense. But at the same time, with the mother aspect, that's kind of natural that you'll refer to her as your mother. But then again, there are the kids who may not have the healthiest relationship with their parents, so they do not feel like even mentioning them by title or name. So that's debatable as well, I guess. But anyways, parents are different. My mother's name is Mom. I love titles. I was in the military, so I always respect the title. They worked hard for the title. You know what? When you put it like that, I can understand that because as someone who is not really exercising any kinds of discipline, like in the military, which I expect that in the military, in order to be successful, you have to have a lot of discipline in a lot of things, then I can see why that's a big deal. My brother just will not stop talking about how important ranks are and, titles, that good stuff. And it makes sense. The the military is like its own little world, its own. When you present yourself with a title, people already know what you are, who you are, what you're good at, what your efficiency is at. See what I mean? Whereas if you were addressed by a first name or last name, that wouldn't be very useful. And especially in a situation like that, when just knowing you by title can let someone know in case of emergency what your functions are. So it makes sense that in the military you would want to respect that. But outside of that, in industries where you're not really saving lives and junk, I don't see why you should sweat it, honestly. Especially a setting that doesn't have to be so incredibly formal. So I would love to see what it's like in a corporate level. Let's say that I'm at a very prestigious company and I'm in a management position. Do we call each other Mrs., Mr. last name? Or, how does that work? But I did take a French class with someone who. Did you live in France or didn't you? I don't remember if my teacher actually lived in France, but I feel like she knew enough of it because she had ancestors from France, of course. But she always emphasized to always be formal, that Americans tend to get a bad rap because of that. Like, you're so informal, you don't know how to dress, you are always going everywhere on a t shirt and shorts, and that needs to change, this and that. And I'm like, why? I mean, if I'm off the clock, for example, I don't see why I need to be stressing so much over my presentation. But I guess in the name of prestige, yeah, but I just do not particularly enjoy being that way. See what I mean? Just let me breathe, let me live, leave me alone. I'm not telling you what to do to your face or to your body. Why are you doing that to me? See? But anyways, again, I'm just being silly, just rambling. But it's worth mentioning. It's mom's first name, but I can never call her. I sometimes call people Mr. and Mrs. Respect. It is not based on anything than respect at the workplace. Sometimes people say, don't call me Mr. and Mrs. and say, call me by my first name. Exactly. That's exactly what I go through every single day. I always try to show respect to my higher ups at work till they tell me, you don't have to be so formal. Exactly. When I first started working, that is how I used to be. I used to address people like that, but then if they initially introduce themselves as, hi, my name is John, then that's what I do. I go by whatever they tell me. But if it's something incredibly formal, even if they present themselves as John, I'll still call them John Johnson until they tell me, you don't have to call me Johnson, Mr. Johnson. I can just be John. So I'm like, okay, until you establish that, then I would feel compelled to be that way. But again, because in my daily life, I never find myself in extremely formal situations, when it is time to be incredibly formal, I'm so anxious and clueless, and I'm just like, I'm not the best person to be inviting to your event because I have zero sense of formality. So, can I skip on this because I'm gonna make a fool of myself and it's not gonna be party? But anyways, I don't think a situation like that should be forever avoided, because then how do I gain experience on how to behave in formal settings? But then again, I think that what people are looking for is politeness more than everything. So if you have that, which I believe I do, then I should be fine everywhere I go. But I understand that there are some places where the protocol is a little harsher than other places. I also respect people's nicknames. I do so as well, unless I come up with a nickname of my own for you. In that case, you are screwed. Um, the next question that I thought about is how often do rumors turn out to be true? And the reason I ask that is because a lot of times I find myself caught between a firestorm of gossip that I did not even ask to be involved in, but people just, you are a social creature. So when you find something fascinating, you're going to try to share the story with me. But sometimes a story ends up being complete bullshit, but other times a rumor, after a little while or a long time, it may turn out to be true. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what's the determining factor, what is the giveaway of a rumor being true, or what makes something less likely to be true when it comes to rumors. And if I had to advise someone on this, I think that the way a rumor turns out to be false is if it just keeps getting spread and the story keeps changing. But if a rumor has a consistent element to it, then I think it is a little more reliable. But honestly, I don't care for rumors. I'm never at the center of them because I just mind my own business. But when I do hear of certain rumors, I'm like, why do you people care so much? Y'all are nosy. Don't you have better things to do with your time, you know? But anyways, my nickname was Jamming in the military. It was because Benjamin is like Benjamin. That's interesting. I would have never thought of that. I never thought of that. Benjamin. Benjamin. What you jamming today to Benjamin? Oh man. But yeah, you guys. Rumors, gossip. How often are they true? And what experiences do you have with it? I personally don't really have that many rumors. The only time I was actually being rumored about was when I was dating one of my boyfriends, and we happened to work in the same place, and everyone kept going to him, asking him, "Are you dating Zam?" And for me, it was, "Are you dating this guy?" And I was like, I can neither confirm or deny that I am dating this guy. Because, the way it started is you just hang out, but for some reason, when people see a man and a woman who are not related hanging out, it's automatically they have to be dating. So, honestly, because other people were asking me if I was with that guy, that's when I actually started considering why not be with this guy, you know? So if it weren't for those people's influences, I think I would not have thought about dating that guy officially on my own. I know that sounds dumb, but I guess you could call that some kind of social pressure. But at the same time, it forced me to think of that guy who I was just hanging out with. And then I'm like, you know what? He's handsome, he's single, he's nice, he's sweet. Why the fuck not? So then that's how eventually it all just came together. So thank you, people who were confronting me about the rumor that you guys just started. And that's the only time I have been uh, involved in a rumor, which I guess in that case, it started off as not true, but eventually it became true. Crazy, isn't it? And then finally, the last thing that I thought of is what does vulnerability mean to me and what makes me feel vulnerable? And when it comes to vulnerability, it can be in any number of ways. It can be the relationship vulnerability, the emotional vulnerability, your vulnerability as a worker. And honestly, what vulnerability means to me oftentimes is reserved for the emotional dash relationship aspect, and that means I open myself up, make my soul bare for you. So when you give your all to someone, in a sense you are giving them the means to your destruction, but I would believe that you do not proceed in such a way until you feel like you can absolutely trust this person. So, as a result, what vulnerability means to me would be absolute submission to this person. And that's pretty much it. Do you guys agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Do you have your own take on it? Do you have your own experience with that? Let me know, because honestly, that's it. And the reason I came up with the question was because I was scrolling on Facebook and someone posted about, they read an article and then they reposted it, and it was talking about the ways that you know that you're in a good relationship or something. And then I said, oh, let me find out if I'm in a good relationship. And then it was mentioning stuff about how you end up feeling vulnerable, and I forget what definition they gave vulnerability, but I had kind of a deferring take on it. So I said, okay, let me just write this down and bring it up in the stream and see what other people's have to say. So yeah, you guys, those are all of the questions that I thought of independently, that I thought would display how clueless about life I may be and just how normal and average I am. I hope that you enjoyed this. I certainly did. It got me rambling, which is one of my favorite things to do. And then I also got some insights on what you guys think about or how you perceive this. And I love learning, especially from other people directly. So I consider this a valuable experience. So for those of you who may catch this stream at a later time, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, I'm going to conclude this right. All right, thanks for watching.